Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. Welcome to another 2023 Project Orchids. This time it's orchid number 6, which is Dendrobium Prima Donna. Now if you want to see what was going on with this plant from 2 months ago, there's a link in the description where I obviously had a chat about how it was then 2 months ago and what I expected from it in the sort of near future leading up to where we are today. And there's also an info card coming up now. Right, if you've been away, welcome back. If you went away to have a reminder of what this was like. Now it's reasonably obvious from the tray that this is repot time. I did say that this one would get a repot as part of the project. The main reason I'm repotting is that it's got cocoa husk in the pot, and given how long it's been in there, it's probably going off, so we need it out. In addition to that, we've got a nice strong new growth coming up here, and I've just noticed this morning that you won't be able to see that. On the bottom of this cane is a new growth just starting there as well, so we have 2 new growths starting that are good. It's got a good root system. Some of the roots have come out the bottom of the pot, which means it's probably not going to want to come out. Oh, maybe I'm wrong. Not too bad. And we will get rid of the scaffolding. Right, and what have we got? This. I don't like the look of this cane. Feels quite firm up to there. So I'm going to take the top of it off. I might put a bit of cinnamon on that. What about this one? This one's okay. And I can see some scale, but they're dead. Which is what I'd expect. All the hot box treatments that that have been out here. Yeah, they're just falling away. I don't think they're alive. I do wonder whether, well, I don't know, whether if they get down under these tight sheaths, they're actually protected from the fumes from the hot box. Is that possible? I suppose it is. They were tucked right down inside. So I'm just having a look inside some, see if I can see any active ones while I'm here, and I'm giving it a good look over. Right, so now I've got it out, you can probably see that at the base of this cane we do have a new growth and new roots. Yeah? So a good time to repot. Now this should start falling out, because most of the roots are around the outside, which probably means that the centre of the pot has got hardly any roots in at all. The idea being that the media just falls down through the bottom like that. That's what I was hoping. And then we can just tease away. Moss off around the base here, holding moisture around the base of the canes, which in the winter time we don't want. Right. Unless I can physically see cocoa husk, I think I'll leave it at that. A few little bits of bark stuck on, I don't mind. Thought, what's that? That's the bottom of a steak, rotted off. So there we go, that's a nice root system, and it's going to go in at least 1 size up, if not 2. This logic of the smallest pot possible, I've explained it enough times now. It's based on, in the winter this plant needs to rest, and to rest it, it needs to stay quite dry. But it will need some water now and again, and when you water it at that point in time, If it's crammed in the smallest pot possible, then that pot can't hold much water and it's not going to rot the roots. In a bigger pot it can hold more moisture and it can stay wet for too long when it's supposed to be resting. So how do you get around the problem of the larger pot? Don't put so much water in. It's down to the individual. It's not an orchid thing, if you know what I mean. It's an individual thing. You've just got to control yourselves and just put a tiny little bit of water around the edge of the pot, just a trickle, just so that you can see it run down part way down the pot, and that'll do. Now what I am going to do is in the centre are some dead roots. I'm just going to snip that centre part and get those dead roots out of the way. I don't want to go mad on this root system, there's just no need, quite honestly. Oops. But I want to make room for the new roots. Right, now I need to have a little bit of a clear up, not too much. I wonder how much of that bark went in my coffee. No, it would float, wouldn't it? I'll just have a bit of a clear up. This was the crocking. That's going straight back in. It's still rock hard. But I do need to sort myself out. The right size pot. It needs to look right for that size plant and that size root system, so that these roots aren't right on the very edge of the pot. So yeah, I'll be back. Right, welcome back. Difference in pot size, mix different. I've got the really big chunky bark over the cone, and then I put a bit of medium bark on top of that. Basically, if the roots get down into that area, that's the area most likely to stay wet in the winter. So by moving up to the medium sized bark, there's nowhere that can retain water. And with an air cone it should dry off as quickly as the top. Right, I want to get this at an angle where it's going to stay upright this time, not keep falling over. We need to make sure that the centre of gravity is exactly that, central. And we've got rain. I'm picking up the bark with the biggest bits in first, so that they go into the central part. You know, it's a mix of medium and small bark, and most of what I've picked up so far has had a predominance of the medium bark in it, and that's now filled up the centre of the pot, which again is a bit that dries slowest in the middle of the pot. And for the first time in a very long time, I didn't mix up enough. Well, that doesn't happen often, does it? Especially once I press down the sides. New growths have got plenty of room, but we haven't really got enough media, so we'll just grab another handful. That's a little high in the pot, but I'm not particularly worried about that because the roots are coming out below this bit here, so they will go straight down in the media. This new growth here isn't showing any signs of new roots yet, but they will go down through that set of old roots. So they're not going to come out in air, if you know what I mean. They've got something to grow down through. So there we go, no moss this time. Don't want moss in a pot that I want to stay virtually dry in the winter, but still need to water it now and again. And this is what I was saying. When I water this in the winter time, it will get a trickle, and I'll watch, and as soon as I see it get about halfway down, I'll stop. That's enough. It's just to stop it dehydrating. That's all it's for in the winter time. As opposed to this time of year, we're coming into active growth. We've got the start of a growth here, a bud of a new growth here, and root tips showing. Roots will come from here very, very soon. This is coming in to active growth. So this plant now is in my normal watering cycle and feeding cycle. Now Carol was asking, I said, oh, I've just finished my watering, what do I mean? Do I mean I've watered and fed, or have I just watered? I use it as a, excuse me, a generic term. I have done watering, the content of which I haven't mentioned. But I'll go over that in the answers, because Carol's put that as an actual question in the Q's and A's, so we'll deal with that then. Right, so repot for that one. We already have a proper label for it, so tuck that back in, and it now stands up on its own, even though I haven't even watered it yet. Because there's no moss in there, that is bone dry. That will now get a good soak, and I'll have to go careful with it, because in a couple of days' time it will probably need another good soak, because the new bark doesn't soak in the water, it lets it run straight through, so it dries very quickly, but after a relatively short while it will start holding a little bit of water, the small bark at least. So a good watering now, put it to one side, and what I would expect from this now is some new roots pushing down off of the two new growths, and those two new growths will get fed and watered well, providing they push a good root system down. They should grow up to at least the height of this cane, and they've got a short season to do it, because these new growths should have been coming out mid-March and it's now May. That's how much time I lose in this environment by not having any sun on the glass early in the year. So I probably won't get great big canes up here like I used to get. That's probably about as good as it will get, because the season's too short for them, and I've just got to put up with that. So what I would expect is the best out of those two canes that I can do, and we'll see where we are in 2 months' time. See you next time.